Hello everyone, welcome to Insights Alley. In this series about startup basics, we will try to understand and learn from insights shared by various phenomenal people around startups, product, growth, sales, strategy, and everything in between. My name is Arun Verma, and let's get started. In today's episode, we will be going back to the best advice and nuggets from all of our Insights Alley episodes in 2018. So here is the part 1 of that. When should founders should be thinking of growth? It's a very common advice that you should not do it before you have achieved product market fit. But could you share why should you not be building your growth systems or your growth team before you've achieved product market fit?
Sure. Yeah, I think the simplest way to say it is that if you are trying to grow a product that does not provide value to a market, then you're going to be wasting your time because you will be spending a lot of money. It will be really hard. It'll be getting each customer on the phone, trying to convince them with a product that you might not even have available yet. Right. And that kind of work needs to happen, but it's going to be a lot more frustrating if you start trying to, put the tactics before the value that you are actually providing to customers. And so I think it starts there, really understanding what is that value and who are you providing it to? And if you don't have the answers to those questions, then start there. And there's simple ways to do this. And by simple, I mean simple ways to assess it. I don't think it's simple to achieve product market fit.
Exactly.
By any point, I think it's about 90% of startups or something like that, fail. And a majority of it is because they didn't have the market to satisfy. And so when you think about product market fit, you also need to think about there's two parts to that equation. There's the product, but then there's also the market. So is the market ready for you? Sometimes there's a lot of visionaries out there that want to create a product and see the need for it, but they don't have the market that's developed yet. And so that can take time as well and effort as well. And so there's two parts to that equation. And if your market is small, then your growth rate is going to be small, right? You're not going to capture a Facebook size audience if you're going after a very niche market. So thinking about those kinds of things before you go into growth is going to make your job a lot easier, and you're going to spend a lot less time and money trying to do it.
Right. So how should you objectively define product market fit? Because product is always changing even after you have achieved product market fit, obviously. So is it okay, we have achieved X number of customers, then we can say, okay, we have achieved product market fit? Or is it X number of paying customers or X number of successful customers, or is it certain number of retention metrics? What exactly? How should you be thinking about this?
Yeah, I think everything that you mentioned, there's validity in measuring those things, and you will start to get a feel for, if I have only 2 customers and they're not being successful, then okay, well, that's probably not a good indicator. But right. I think by measuring all of those things, you do start to get empathy for your customers, and you start to really understand, is this stuff flying off the shelves, and are people spreading it? Are they talking about it with their peers? Right. And that's, I think, a good indicator, like a leading indicator of growth, is if people are talking about your product. Because if they're talking about it, then that means they see enough value to be able to explain it to somebody else. Okay. And so what you want to be able to do is then capture that. How are they explaining it? And is it a must-have for them? So there's a survey that Sean Ellis had put together back when he would actually go and assess whether or not, companies would have product market fit. And he used a set of questions, and I can share the link with you so you can share it with your audience.
Sure.
But the primary questions are, is this product a must-have for you? And it's basically asking, would you be very disappointed if this went away? And if someone responds very disappointed, then that's that feeling of product market fit, right? They're going to be really upset if it's gone. And so when you ask that question, then try to understand, for the people that are very disappointed, how are they explaining your product, and how are they referring their friends to your product? because that information is going to give you so much insight into how you should be messaging different groups of
Right.
people. And then that can help spiral how you actually find product market fit. But
Right.
Sean, he likes to put a measurement of 40% more or of very disappointed people, people
Okay.
checking that they would be very disappointed for, an audience of hundreds of people. But if you don't have those hundreds of people, then start with customer interviews and get that insight that I'm talking about, and
Right.
then start to put that into your growth system, right?
Right.
I mean, that's like the foundation of it. But
Right. Even
in,
in like
in
your copywriting process, your landing pages, your
yes,
sales material, everything, those nuggets would be very beneficial. Makes sense. Makes sense.
absolutely, absolutely.
So I really believe that your network is your net worth. Your personal brand plus your professional network will help you achieve your dreams in life.
Right.
And if your dreams in life are to help other people grow, if you help other people grow at scale,
Hmm.
you can achieve anything that you want. And so I think that if you were thinking about how do I build my brand, how do I grow and nurture my network like a
Right.
garden in and
Right.
around me, you should think about your garden of your relationships like a sustainable garden, right? You
Hmm.
you don't want to have a garden that requires a lot of water and pesticides and a lot of work. You
Right.
want a garden that really is self-sustaining, almost like an organic sort of a natural garden. And so you should be trying to attract people to you
Hmm.
that are ideally share your own passions that you
Okay.
have,
Right.
because those are the easiest people to attract to yourself. And so, for instance, my passions are sales, marketing, social media, startups, entrepreneurship. Those are my business personas,
Right.
right?
Right.
But then I also have my personal personas that I love backpacking and family and barbecue and mountain biking
Hmm.
and hiking and things like that. And I think you need to be attracting to yourself both personal and professional people that share your passions, because ultimately you want to build a sustainable garden around yourself. And so what I do to attract other people
Hmm.
is I identify people that inspire me. So
Right.
people that inspire me, and thought leaders in sales and marketing and social media. And what I do is I share their content and
Hmm.
attribute their name. So
Oh.
that means that if you're a thought leader in sales or marketing or social, I would share your content and put your name in the attribution and hashtag the category, pound sales, pound marketing. And what that does is it helps me to build my brand, but it also helps to build the Nimble brand, but it
Right.
also builds relationships with that thought leader, that influencer, and also their community. and
Hmm.
and then that person becomes an evangelist and friend of mine and evangelist for my products. And
Right.
that's how we've scaled the Nimble brand globally without spending a dime on marketing. And anybody listening to this today can do that to build their personal and professional brand, their personal and professional networks.
Right.
And if you establish your network properly and you're paying those people forward on a daily basis,
Hmm.
they will help you achieve your dreams in life.
What should be the basic principles and mental models for startup founders who are more on the lines of product people or technical design people if they are trying to make a B2B SaaS product? And especially in very early stage when they are just trying to make the MVP or just going through the customer development process or try a very initial version of the product.
Yeah. So first of all, I think you need to realize that sales is nothing less and nothing more than result-driven communication, right?
Hmm.
Anytime you communicate with a conversion in mind, with an end goal in mind, you're trying to accomplish something by communicating. You're not just conversing, but
Right.
you're having purpose. Anytime you do that, you're selling in some way, and you're selling, somebody needs to buy, right? And it doesn't
Right.
matter if it is trying to hire someone or trying to get a news outlet to write about you, or if it is trying to get somebody interested in you as a friend or as an intimate acquaintance or even a sexual partner, right? Anytime you communicate with other human beings and you're
Right.
trying to get to an end goal, you have a goal in mind, you're trying to convince them of something or make them do something, you're
Right.
selling in some way, right? And they are either buying or they're not. So if you understand that, you realize that we all have experience in selling. We might not have formal training. We might have not had the job title of sales executive, but we all know how to sell. We all know how to buy. And so if you take that approach to selling, then, it's not a mythical thing. It's not a thing where you go, well, I have no experience in it. I know nothing about it, or I don't like this. I think it's shady. You're doing it and you're participating in it every day in your life. So might as well do it well when you need it, especially in the early days. So that's step one. The step two is, at the end of the day, before making a product, what you're trying to do is you're trying to learn and generate as many insights as possible.
Right,
so
exactly.
Going out there, there's a pyramid in terms of, or a weighting scale in terms of what is validation, or how strong the validation is that you're getting for your idea or your potential product, right? You could tell your mom about your idea, and your mom could say, I think that's a brilliant idea, my son or my daughter. And then, that's nice, but it's not necessarily, you can't put that on a slide and go and raise 100 million based on that validation. Right? That's going to be hard. So I think when founders go out in the world, or entrepreneurs go out in the world to get validation for their idea, because we want to be right and we want people to tell us that our idea is great, we're too easy to count or to see quote unquote validation when there might be none, right? We might just tell a few people about our idea really passionately, and these people want to be nice, and they look at us with all our passion, and they think, yeah, that's kind of a cool idea. And we go, I've told 10 people, and everybody thinks it's a brilliant idea. Boom, I validated, right? Let's go and build it. What I would encourage you to do is to ramp up the difficulty of validation and get really difficult validation to get, right? So somebody telling you they think your idea is nice, that's something, that's more than nothing, but it's not much. Somebody telling you they would buy this product if it existed, that's much stronger validation than just tell you it's nice. Right. So tell somebody about your idea, they go, oh, that's really nice. And then you go, would you buy it if it existed today? Would you give me your credit card number and start paying, $50 a month to get this?
That's a real validation.
That's real. It's not real, but it's more real, right? So that is going to be something where a lot of people that told you the idea is nice, they're going to go, well, I don't really know if I need it right now. People are going to be much harder in terms of, them feeling comfortable telling you, yes, I would purchase this, if they don't feel like they would, right? And so that's much better validation, if having people telling you they would purchase, telling you they would buy this if it existed. And then one level above it is people actually giving you money for something that doesn't exist yet, right? So you could tell people, would you purchase this if it existed? And they go, absolutely, this solves a big problem for me. And then you go, well, we're starting building it today. We're offering an early, whatever you want to call this, an early access program. So the first 20 people that are going to purchase this product are going to get a lifetime discount of whatever. It's something crazy, 90%. It doesn't really matter, right? It's not about the dollar amount. It's more about the gesture or the strength of the signal. So if you put down $200 right now, you're going to get a lifetime access to the product for free once we launch it 3 months from now, something like that. And by the way, the money is fully, you have a lifetime, money back guarantee. So if at any point you want your $200 back, you can get it at any time, no questions asked. Now, if they say, yes, here are my $200, that's very, very strong validation, right? And you should not use up that. People are going to go now, oh, well, but it's unethical. The product doesn't exist. What if it takes longer than 3 months? What if we never finish it? Don't touch the money, right? Put it on an account and don't use it, right? Just use it as validation. Or tell them, if they tell you, I want to wire you that money, say, you know what? We changed our mind. You're such an amazing person. You're going to get lifetime access for free anyways, right? But it's more about the strength of the signal than anything else. And sales, or the philosophy of sales, can help you a lot, making sure you don't build a product just because a bunch of friendly people said, your idea is nice. But you're building a product because there's a real market out there of people that really want to pay you money for it.
What type of pricing strategies are there, and which ones are the best for which kind of scenarios? So I was looking at your Profitwell videos also, where you were explaining different strategies like cost plus markup, then competitive benchmarking, and then value metric based pricing, which you've been championing for very long. Could you explain these and perhaps with a few examples?
Yeah, totally. So you have cost plus pricing, which is kind of like what it sounds like.
Right.
You take your costs and you slap kind of an arbitrary margin on top of it. And the big problem with cost plus pricing is that your customers, they don't care about your costs, they care about their costs, right? And so if you're pricing based on your costs, it's kind of like there's no context for that customer. There's also competitive based pricing, which obviously is taking your competitors and taking in mind and then pricing either above them, below them, or similar to them. The problem here is that you're assuming that you're selling basically the same product to the exact same type of customer. And that's probably not the case, even in very competitive markets. I know you had John from Nimble on here. Nimble is not selling to the same company that is looking at Salesforce. There might be some crossover, but there's not going to be an immense amount of crossover. And then the other thing with competitive-based pricing is you're also assuming that your competitors have done their homework. You're assuming that they have researched the market enough and researched their customers enough to get their pricing right. And essentially all data indicates that they absolutely have not been able to do that. And so it's one of those things where the big, focus should be on value-based pricing, which is pricing based on the value that your customer sees. And what you should be doing is collecting data, and there's a whole myriad of ways that you can collect data, both qualitatively and quantitatively, around where your customers see value and the level to which they see value. And then what you do is you take that value-based pricing data and then you can compare it to your costs as well as your competitors, because those are good inputs, but they're very secondary or tertiary, your costs and your competitors. And so if you find out that your value-based price, the willingness to pay is $10, but your cost is $10, now you're not going to sit there and go, oh, well, they just don't see the value. We're going to go price it at $10 still, or we're going to price it at the $25, because you're just going to alienate the people that you think you should be targeting. When you have a situation where the willingness to pay is $10 and your costs are $10, you either need to fix the product in order to boost value, in order to basically, get that willingness to pay to be higher, or you need to find a different type of customer who actually values that product at a much higher rate than at $10. You could also affect your costs, meaning get more efficiency. But in the world of kind of software and technology, most of the time, the relative value that you're providing a particular customer should far outweigh your cost, just because there's efficiency with, obviously the cloud and things like that.
Even if we dig deeper into the value metric based pricing, how do you define or find that value? Because there are so many variables and dimension for value metric also. So by different variables, I mean, it could be number of users or number of seats. Then another variable could be frequency of the product usage. Then it could be number of features. How to think around this?
Yeah, this is a really good concept. It's known as the value metric. And the reason it's so great is because we're now able to measure value like we weren't able to do 10 years ago. So 10 years ago, there were just a lot of technological barriers to measuring, the actual value that you're bringing a customer, or to measure some element of usage. But now it's easier to do that, and it'll get easier over time because we'll be able to measure more things and integrate with other things and all kinds of fun stuff. And so your value metric, it's one of the most important pieces. And in order to kind of get it right, a good proxy to kind of think about is what is the actual value of what you're providing? And it's probably some element of you're either saving someone costs, you're increasing the amount of revenue they get, you're saving them time, which is basically like, saving them money, or some element of that. And then think about what is the perfect value metric. So if I'm a CRM, my perfect value metric is the amount of money I bring you because of the efficiency of, using the product. Now, I can't measure that perfectly. And even if I was able to measure it, you would say, well, I'm the one who closed the deal. You just helped me. But was that help 10% of the deal? Was it 100% of the deal? Like, it's hard to kind of litigate that. And so when you have that perfect value metric, if you can't measure it as well as you should, or there's a dissonance in terms of the customer doesn't quite see that that's the amount of value that you provided, then you want to take like one step back. So in a CRM case, one step back is either number of contacts, number of reps, sales reps that are there, or something in between. And when you have that step back, there's probably only about 3 to 5 options that really make sense. And then you can use some of the methodologies that we've talked about to basically test those particular things. And so, yeah, long story short, I think that's what's so powerful about, what's happening in the world of kind of subscriptions and the world of technology, because we can now measure all of these things in a proper way.
Let's talk about LTV, lifetime value of a customer. It's kind of my favorite. So could you explain us, like, what is it? What does it consist? Its importance? What does it say? How to calculate and all?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, customer lifetime value is basically what you're trying to do is estimate, if someone, what you're usually trying to do anyway, there's a lot of different meanings for this, but if someone signs up today and buys one of your paid plans, what is the average amount of revenue you can expect to receive from that customer over the course of until they churn eventually? So, of course, traditionally, value has meant actually it's like the revenue minus the COGS, or basically times the gross margin, so minus the cost of goods sold. In SaaS, because the kind of incremental margins tend to be very good, because you're selling software and you're not selling you're not selling pizza or something where you have to like buy the ingredients and sell it. Although pizza does have good margins apparently, but it's not like you're selling iPods and you have to like buy them and then sell them and you have a margin. So in SaaS, we often just measure lifetime value as really sort of lifetime revenue. And so what you're trying to do is create an estimate. And the simplest formula that everybody goes with is like, sorry, let me look it up, but it's like average cost per account divided by the customer churn rate. So say you average MRR per customer divided by customer churn rate. So if you have a $10 per month subscription on average, and your customer churn rate is 10%, then on average your lifetime will be 10 months, and therefore you'll make $100 of lifetime value or lifetime revenue from that customer. So this is the idea. And if you're going to make $100 from your customer, then maybe you can afford to spend $50 or $60 or $80 or whatever it is on customer acquisition costs. So lifetime value is really there to help you understand how much you should like spend on a big part of it anyway, is to help you understand how much you should spend on customer acquisition. And of course, like just having LTV as just a single number isn't so helpful, because you also need to know the lifetime, like how long is a customer actually going to stay with you. Like if you have a super low churn rate, it might be like that have a really high lifetime value, but it might take you 10 years on average because your customers just don't churn. Right. So there might be a theoretical 10 years before you can actually acquire that revenue. So you have to think about like how long is it going to take you to get that revenue, and therefore can you actually afford to spend? You probably can't. If it's going to take you like 10 years to get the revenue, you can't afford to spend 80% CAC because you can't wait 8 years to get a payback. So you also need to know your lifetime so you can calculate the payback period. The simplistic lifetime value formula that we also have actually in ChartMogul, and where we are planning to create something more sophisticated. Okay, is fine if your SaaS business it's kind of a finger in the air a little bit, like calculation for LTV, because it doesn't take into account that the dynamics, which is often that the reality is that some customers basically never churn, or they're really really embedded, and a lot of the churn that does happens in the first like 2 or 3 months because it was a bad fit or they never really got into the product. So the distribution of churn, and then the customers that do stay with you basically sort of forever, they tend to upgrade over time. So this simplistic formula doesn't really take into account like all the different dynamics. So as your company gets bigger, usually you'll create a more tailored formula for your business that works for your business. You might also have non-recurring revenues in there as well. You might have setup fees, like HubSpot is a mandatory setup fee, and that's still revenue that you want to count, right, as part of the lifetime value of a customer. You might have an annual service fee or something like, or annual training fee. So really, like, you kind of want to create a formula that's sort of tailored to your business model. So one of the things we've been thinking about is how a ChartMogul for the future is how can we build a sort of flexible lifetime value sort of modeler into our product, where we can have a very flexible thing that gives a really accurate reading no matter how complex your business is.
So could you give us a glimpse of what is CAC payback period and what is CAC to LTV ratio? Like what is it how is it important, how to calculate and all?
So the payback period is just like, how long does it take you to pay back the cost of acquiring the customer if it's a paid acquisition, right. Like if it was acquired via Google or a paid ad campaign. I think it depends like how much funding you have, and so like how much you want to press the gas, as they say, right? Like some I heard some telcos will wait like a year and a half before they like start to make a profit on some of the telco subscribers, knowing that their long-term LTV, people don't usually switch telco, mobile phone provider very often, right? Like if you're with AT&T or O2 here in Germany, then you generally just stay for years and years, so that they know that, they measure that, and therefore they'll pay quite a lot in sales and marketing to acquire you or to get you to switch over from another provider. So I think it just depends. If you're a bootstrap SaaS company, you probably want your payback period to be fairly fast.
Is there a generally accepted healthy number? You were mentioning you had some 9 months, right?
Yeah, 9 to 10 months. I think a lot of companies do go for that. Like even if like we're VC backed company, not like tens of millions, like not yet anyway, like some SaaS companies, but I think generally like most SaaS companies would like to start making a profit within the first year of a subscription.
I'll give you the highest ROI advice I have, measured based on the thousands of emails I've gotten up until this point of people telling me very specifically how much money they made because they followed this advice.
Wow.
It's my follow-up advice, right? I mean, we're talking hundreds of millions by now made by just following this very simple advice.
Sure.
Showing up is easy. Lots of companies will show up and compete with you. Make a call, send an email. They're gonna the showing up of sales part is very competitive and busy. It's the follow-up and follow-through where nobody competes with you. It's where it gets very quiet and where fortunes are being made. My biggest advice to you is when you have a first initial strong conversation, interest, you meet somebody, they're interested, or you send an email, they send back an email telling you that they're interested, whatever it is, the first connection happens. If they go quiet, you ping them again and they don't respond, or you call them, they don't pick up, or they don't show up to a demo or something, follow up a lot more aggressively than you would be comfortable with. I have a simple follow-up philosophy, which is follow up forever until you get a result. Yes is good, no is good. Maybe is where startups go to die. And if you just follow up more than you're comfortable with, magic is going to happen. Right. Magical things are going to happen for you. I bring up this story all the time where I follow up with a billionaire 48 times.
Right. I've listened to your podcast. Yeah.
Right. And then he responded going, thank you for being so persistent. We had a crisis overseas. I was traveling. I'm back now. Can we meet tomorrow at 1 p.m.? I have so many stories of this stuff. And I have a whole book, The Follow-Up Formula. Again, if you want to have a copy of it for free, just send me an email, Steli, S-T-E-L-I, @close.io. I'll send you a copy for free. But the basic thing is, whatever the amount of follow-up is that you're doing today and you're comfortable with, multiply that by 2 moving forward, and I guarantee you're going to close deals that you would have lost in the past. You will hire people that would never come on board. You will get press that you would have never gotten. You're going to accomplish things nobody else is accomplishing because you're doing a simple thing that nobody else wants to, just to follow up more, be more persistent than the next guy.
That's it, folks. Thanks for tuning in. Show notes would be available in the link below, or you can just go to insightsalley.com/notes. Please rate, review, subscribe in whichever app you are listening to this episode. And most importantly, give feedback in comments, reviews, or you can just email me at arun@insightsalley.com. You can also follow and connect with me on Instagram, Twitter, etc. My handle everywhere is ARUN11192. And remember, always be learning. Bye.